Urban legends, from curses being passed on to others to murdered souls still lingering. Here are 4 creepy Asian urban legends. Number 4. This legend revolves around the ghost of Mariam, a girl that is said to haunt Ankle Bridge in Jakarta, Indonesia. The locals believe that her ghostly presence in Ankle Bridge is the reason behind the many traffic accidents in the area. The sad story of Mariam has its roots from a traffic incident that was said to have happened in the early 1800s. The story goes that Mariam was a servant of a wealthy old merchant. When she was 16, her beauty captivated the wealthy merchant so much that he wanted to have her as a concubine. Such a fate was unthinkable for the young maid. Thus, she decided to run away instead. While Mariam was wandering around, looking for a new place to stay, another rich old guy took notice of her beauty and made some advances, which Mariam rejected. Angered by her rejection, he went after her with some of his thugs. Poor Mariam was raped and killed by her suitor, who dumped her body in a nearby rice field. There have since been many reported sightings of a ghostly woman near Ankle Bridge, whose presence is said to have caused traffic accidents to any male motorist passing by. Number 3. Maria Lebeau, who is said to have lived in one of the island provinces in the Visayas, was once a happy wife to a policeman, and a mother to 2 sweet boys, but her husband's salary was not enough to make ends meet. To help her family get by, Maria opted to work as a caregiver for an old man in town, without knowing that the man was an aswang. The old man was already frail and desperate to die, but an aswang could not die unless he bequeathed the curse to someone else. Taking the opportunity that comes with having a naive village girl at hand, he secretly passed the curse on to Maria. Several months after the old man died, Maria is unemployed and still hoping to give a better life for her and her family. She went to Canada as an overseas worker and returned after a couple of years. Maybe it has to do with the cold Canadian air and maple syrup, for it was only when she returned that the curse started manifesting itself. Her hunger for human flesh became unappeasable. When her husband went home one night, he found their house oddly quiet. He went into the kitchen where Maria was cooking dinner. He asked her where the kids were, and Maria merely pointed at a large pot atop the stove. When the husband opened the lid of the pot, he saw the kids, chopped and well seasoned, simmering away in thick broth, ready to be served for dinner. Enraged, her husband grabbed a big knife from the kitchen table and struck her. The blow wounded Maria's face and forced her to flee the house. Number 2. In 1999, Hong Kong was horrified to hear the details of a grisly murder that happened in a third-floor apartment in Granville Road 31. The victim was a 23-year-old nightclub hostess, Fan Man Yi, who was abducted by 3 men and held captive for more than a month. During the time of her captivity, Miss Fan was tortured mercilessly almost every day until she died. Her body was chopped to pieces and disposed along with the household trash. Her decapitated head was then sewn inside a Hello Kitty doll, and since then, the media have nicknamed the crime the Hello Kitty murder. For several weeks, authorities were oblivious of Miss Fan's murder, until a 13-year-old girl, a girlfriend of one of the murderers, went to the police complaining that she's haunted by the ghost of a woman her boyfriend helped kill. The police just dismissed the statement of the girl, but she was persistent. Deciding that it would be less of a hassle to check the story than be berated by an angry teenager, they inspected the address given and were horrified with what they saw. The suspects were quickly rounded up and given life sentences, but the story did not end there. In the months following the murder, CCTV cameras of nearby establishments captured images of a female form lurking in the shadows. Reports of eerie sounds and ghostly flames abound. Due to the ghostly haunting, the tenants moved out, and no one else seemed interested to move in. The owner of the building was forced to close it down, and finally demolish it in 2012. Number 1. A young man was on his way home late one night. The streets were empty except for the occasional motorists, and the only one at the bus stop was him and an old man. The midnight bus arrived, and they boarded it without any fuss. The old man took a seat near the front of the bus, while the young man sat a couple rows behind him. There were no other passengers with them. After a while, the bus stopped, and 2 new passengers climbed aboard and sat behind the driver's seat. Several minutes later, the old man suddenly stood up and confronted the young man. He looked angry and accused the young man of stealing his wallet. The young man was angry at being accused of something so preposterous. The argument became more heated until the old man angrily declared that both of them must get off the bus and settle their argument at the nearest police station. The young man at first did not want to go with the old man, but then relented just to settle the matter and prove his innocence. When they got off and the bus zoomed away, the young man was startled to see that the old man was no longer angry. In fact, he looked relieved. When he asked the old man what it was all about, the old man answered, "I just saved both our lives." To which the young man responded with a confused, "Huh? Did you see the two passengers?" "Yeah, so what?" replied the young man, still bewildered. "Well, unlike you, I took a closer look. They have no feet. They were just floating on air. Those two were ghosts." The next day, the news was all about the midnight bus. It had gone missing along with its driver. For several days, the police tried to locate the bus and finally found it more than 100 kilometers away from its regular route. Inside the bus was the badly decomposed body of the driver. The authorities were even more perplexed and horrified when, upon checking the tank, they found blood instead of petrol.